Tyrone Ross is an intentional investor out now. Epsilon Theory YouTube. I've been dying to get Tyrone on. I told him in advance. We're going to get through like a quarter of the story at most. You're coming back for round 2. He's agreed to it. But we hit some great points on this. We talk about pattern matching versus pattern breaking. There's stories about his parents and then Coach Marty Hollerin and the way they impacted him and showed him how to see patterns and break them is profound. How to be a servant, a god of the gaps, if you will. Extra Mary Oliver inside of that. And how your capacity for pain also just might be your capacity for love. This conversation is beautiful. Jack Forehand, roll some clips.
My mother was on welfare at the time, staying, like I said, living in the projects. My dad really couldn't read and write well. And they kind of made a pact. And my dad was like, look, you teach me to read and write, I'll get a job. And I'll take you out of your mother's house. That was one. And then he found out my mother was on welfare. And he was like, I'm going to get another job and we're going to get you off welfare. And he got a second job and he got her off welfare. Their story to me is just so special because they needed one another. My mother, she had been left deserted with a 9-month-old. My dad had no meaningful skills except for grit and hunger and desire. And he made my mother a promise and she made him a promise and they made it work. So Marty Hollerin, he just knew, and everything he said was gonna happen, happened. It was weird and it was scary, right? I'm bothering him all day and he drags me to the back of the high school and he goes, everyone is, and I was nervous. I was trying to get out of the 400. He goes, knock it off, right? Like we're about to go to the bus. He's like, everyone is coming to this meet today to run 400. You're gonna run 401. And I'm like, I like that. Let's go. Ruth was the lunch lady. And one day I didn't have lunch. And she came, she said, sweetheart, you don't have lunch? I said, no, I didn't have lunch money. And she went to get me McDonald's. And we hit it off and she was like a mom away from home. I think the fact that I had a praying mama, God always sent someone to fill the gaps where my parents couldn't. There was always someone to kind of fill in the gaps, no matter where I was in my life. I was running away from the thing that would ultimately give me all the success in life I ever wanted. And it wasn't track, it was embracing pain. What makes me elite is that I can take a lot of pain. But I was running away from that. So what I was running away from was ultimately the thing that ended up giving me everything in my life that I ever wanted.
Welcome to The Intentional Investor with Matt Zeigler, where he and his guests explore the intersection of investing and life, portfolio and purpose. Nothing in this podcast is investment advice. Nothing in this podcast is advising you to buy or sell any security or to do anything with your money. Seriously. You should only act on investment advice from someone you know and who knows your unique situation. We are not that person. Matt Zeigler is a managing director at Sun Point Investments, and the opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sun Point Investments or of Second Foundation Partners. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of Sun Point Investments.
You're watching The Intentional Investor right here on Epsilon Theory YouTube. Shout out panoptica.com too. The show where we talk about how portfolio meets purpose, yes, but also the show where I talk to finance industry people about pretty much everything except financial markets, as it should be. I'm Matt Zeigler, and who do we have here with me today? I mean, there's so much East Coast Jersey energy in this room right now, and you can check the Kalshi odds. I'm not sure what the odds are of us getting past his age of 25, which I know he looks 24. But trust me, I don't know if we're going to catch up to that point because it's going to be a problem. So where are we? New Jersey Energy. Back to that. How can I introduce him? He's Marty by nature. And yes, I said Marty, not naughty, as in Marty Holler by nature. You down with 401 STC? I think you know me.
You know me.
Damn straight. And if you think I'm done there, you don't know me yet. He's the one chief rocker number 9 hurdle flopper. Not a knock on his skills. But how else can a man learn to fail a little bit better? And one more, and forgive me, which is not a wrong side of the hurdle meets wrong side of the track artifacts reference. Sliding that in there for our mutual Jeff Chapman out there is smiling at that.
Okay.
Love me some artifacts. But it's close because this guest understands that UNITY means speaking in your native tongue, but reaching an audience far larger than your neighborhood Desmond Decker ever reached in that past. You have to find your ways to creatively expand your reach stand on the shoulders of what's already happening around you, and this guest knows how it's done. CEO of 401 Financial, CEO, co-founder of Turnkey Labs. It's time for some action. Tyrone Ross, welcome to the show.
Big Jersey. I love it. Thank you for the intro, man. That is great.
People forget Naughty by Nature was in New Jersey. They forget
absolutely.
1993 was all about North Jersey.
Yeah.
Lords of the Underground.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Latifah, too. I mean, like, Artifacts, if you know, you know. Redman, obviously, Brick City.
Yeah.
But Latifah, proper New Jersey love.
Proper New Jersey. Absolutely.
All right, from my corner of northeastern Pennsylvania to your prior corner of New Jersey, we had to get that in there. We got to just unpack a couple of these things for somebody who has no idea about this from this intro, because these are Easter eggs. So, like, Marty Holler. I'm going to go all the way back in a minute, but this Marty Holler story is just...
Yeah.
Who was Marty?
Yeah, so Marty Hollerin, but I like how you say Marty Holler, because that's what all he did at me was holler. But so it's appropriate. So Marty Hollerin he started out as a very small teacher in school, short, angry gentleman that I was trying.
How was his breath? Did he have good breath?
Yeah, good breath.
Tic Tacs?
By any means necessary that I tried to avoid, and then he turned into a second father that I love dearly. So he was a biology teacher at my high school, and I ended up having a class with him as a freshman, and he had mentioned running track, and I'm like, no, I'm good, my man. And he's like, do you want to pass this class? It's like, I do, actually. So it's like, I'll see you at 3:00. And then the rest is history, and we've grown. Again, he's like a second father. He's been a mentor. He's been a dad. A lot of what I have in my life now, I owe to him. I love him to life. But yeah, ended up being my track coach, and ended up being really close with the family. And yes, he did a lot of hollering. He hollered at me a lot. It kept me on the right path. And again, a lot of what's present in my life now is thanks to him, including the name of my company, 401 Financial. So that's it's an ode to him.
That's very, very special. What about this ninth hurdle story? This was another one that was kind of wild.
Man. So I started out my career in track mainly with hurdles, short hurdles and long hurdles. And my freshman year and sophomore year at the state championship, I fell both times, the ninth hurdle. And
both times on number 9.
Yeah, and it just I literally couldn't get over it. But it was one of those things where if I would have cleared it as a freshman, I immediately would have been thrust into this level of success that I definitely was unprepared for. I didn't even really like track at the time, right? And then my sophomore year, I was still trying to figure out what my event was going to be. And it's funny, that happened at right or like a little bit after the time where I'd started to find my way into flat 400. So it was kind of at that point, it was like, all right, we got to figure something out here, and I got to find a way to get over that hurdle. And it's funny, I hurdled for the rest of my career, right? My junior year, I ended up breaking the school record, right? Senior year, put it out of reach, right? But it was, I literally like didn't practice it. You know what I mean? It was like one of those things where it's kind of like, all right, well, we get to it, but let's avoid any calamities. But it all worked out in the end. Master Marty.
Fantastic. Master Marty. I love it. I love how these people come into our lives if we're open to receiving these messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the one thing. He came from a very tough background in North Bergen, northern New Jersey, and he was very tough on me. He's still very tough on me. But what I loved about looking back at it now is those experiences, he never let me stay in the moment. He used each of them to help me create this picture that he saw that I didn't see. And he was like, all of these things are steps along the way to eventually where you're going to go. But he wouldn't let you dwell on any of the good moments or the great ones as well, by the way. But that was just kind of his MO. And looking back at it, like everything happened as it was supposed to, which ended up being, my senior year, which was historic, right? So it's like one of those things that just needed to happen. And I don't think it would have gone any other way with any other coach. So I agree. It's just he was the right man at that right time in my life.
Do you think he just had that, can I call it foresight? What do I call him seeing those spots and not ever letting you get either like trapped in, because this is an interesting thing. Everybody's going to talk to you about being present and all that stuff. I don't want to call it crap, but all that stuff. And you're saying this guy helped you not be or not get trapped in those moments.
No, I think it was part of who he was, but I joke all the time. It's almost like he was a soothsayer, right? Like he would just kind of speak these things. He knew what was going to happen, and every single thing. Now, mind you, at this time he was late 30s, right? Like late 30s, maybe early 40s. So he was figuring it out as he went along as well. It wasn't like he was like some 60-year-old coach I had, because he started very young, but he just knew, and everything he said was going to happen, happened. It was weird and it was scary, right? Like it was, I mean, like with 401, I'm bothering him all day, and he drags me to the back of the high school and he goes, everyone is, and I was nervous. I was trying to get out of the 400. He goes, knock it off, right? Like we're about to go to the bus. He's like, everyone is coming to this meet today to run 400. You're going to run 401. And I'm like, I like that. Let's go, right? Like, let's go. It's exactly how I won the race. I mean, literally won it at the line, right? Like leaning, running through the line, beating my teammate. So it's like, it was just, anything in my career like that, he just kind of, especially my senior year, it was kind of like, all right, who are you? Who are you?
All right, I'm taking you all the way back.
Yeah.
Because somewhere in the notes, I got to hear about mom and dad. I got to hear about somewhere between 27 and like 27,000 aunts and uncles and whatever else. Who are mom and dad? How do they get, like, there's some crazy stuff here that I don't understand.
Yeah, they are my superhuman parents, Carol and Tyrone Ross Sr. My heroes. So my dad is, which we found out now, I think is closer to 30 children, as my grandfather turned 100 years old October 4th. So we found out there's a couple more. So it's closer to 30 to 27, my friend.
The number keeps going up.
Number keeps going.
Update the internet.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the new siblings. That's
yeah, exactly. More aunts and uncles to remember.
Yeah.
And my mother's one of 12. So just massive, massive families on both sides. On my mother's side, I'm the youngest of 50 grandchildren. So it's 50. Yeah, 50 grandchildren. It's insane. So, my mom and dad met when they were teenagers. My mother had just had my sister. She was 17. My dad had come to this country from Guyana. Pretty cool story how they met. So my mother now, for all of the Pentecostal Christian that she is, was a bit of a brawler back in the day. She liked to fight. She grew up in the projects, so she really liked to fight. Got kicked out of school, the whole thing. And she had my sister. My sister's dad left my mother high and dry. And so my mother was just really mad at the world at that point. So the cool thing about this story is that my mother knew my Aunt Pam, God rest her soul, who was my father's sister before she met my dad. It's just how it worked out. So she's inviting my mother to some party in New York. And my mother's like, no, I just had a baby. I don't want to go. I don't want to meet anybody. I'm going to end up fighting. I don't want to do it. So my mother's sisters and her, no, go have a good time. Like, get out the house. We'll watch the baby. Just go. Fine. So my mother goes, and they're like, we got this guy we want you to meet, right? Like, you need to meet somebody new. Don't be so cranky. Like, so my mother's like, all right, whatever. So she's there. She's annoyed, right? And again, she's getting aggy. She wants to leave. So whoever this gentleman is still not showing up. In walks my father. And my mother goes, "Who's that?" And they're like, "Tyrone?" Like, no, this is not like abort mission. Like, this is not like this is not who we, you know what I mean? Like, like this is definitely
Not the way this is supposed to be.
No. This is not this. You're not following the script here. He's supposed to like walk in and 6'4", and you know what I mean? Here's my dad, this little skinny guy, hungry right off a boat from Guyana, like, you know what I mean? That whole thing. So my dad walks in and she's like, "No, who is that?" And it's like, "It's our brother, Tyrone." Like, it's really, there's not much here, I promise. So she insisted. They met, danced all night. The rest is history, right? And so my mother was on welfare at the time, staying, like I said, living in the projects. My dad really couldn't read and write well. And they kind of made a pact. And my dad was like, "Look, you teach me to read and write, I'll get a job. And I'll take you out of your mother's house." That was one. And then he found out my mother was on welfare. And he was like, "I'm going to get another job and we're going to get you off welfare." And he got a second job and he got her off welfare. And then, 6 years later, a greedy, almost 9-pound baby boy comes along. And the rest is history, as you say. But they, my mother and my father, as I've gotten older and spent more time with them, their story to me is just so special because they needed one another, right? My mother she had been left deserted with a 9-month-old. My dad had no meaningful skills except for grit and hunger and desire. And he made my mother a promise and she made him a promise and they made it work. And all I remember is my father working for almost 40 years, never taking off. He worked public works, like changing tires and doing all this other stuff. Whenever he came in, he had a hot meal. Could be rain, sleet, hail, snow, 3 a.m, whatever. My mother would always pack his stuff or whatever. And I get emotional talking about it because seeing it, that level of commitment and dedication to something and somebody, right? Something being work, and then someone being another individual, and realizing that literally together we don't have anything, but together we could make this life. It's just nothing short of remarkable to me because they literally had nothing to work with except each other, right? And it's just a really awesome story. And some of the decisions that they made along the way, they lost my sister to the streets. My sister was really raised in the streets and started to do certain things there. And then it was like I was the baby boy, I was left, and they were kind of like, all right, well, we can't lose him, right? Like, what do we do to he has to be the first, right? And I eventually end up being the first to finish high school. But the way that they fought to keep our family together and to make a way is just astounding to me. It's something I will always marvel at.
What was your dad doing before he came over? Like, what was the impetus for him to leave and come to America?
I think he came over with a bunch of the brothers and sisters that my grandfather had with my grandmother, his mother, which I think there was about 6 of them. I think the goal was just to come here and work, right? Have better lives. At that point, my grandfather had really started to, Papa was a Rolling Stone, right? He started to, his direction and focus started to be in other places. And they wanted to come here and obviously see if they can and build a better life for themselves. So a bunch of them came over, like a lot of them do, end up in Brooklyn, New York, which is where a lot of Caribbeans come. So they were there and kind of found their footing. And the rest is history. And eventually, almost all of them came over.
Amazing. That's really amazing.
It is a cool story.
So you're born in Jersey? You're in Jersey from the beginning?
Born and raised.
All right. Where in Jersey? Let's shout it out.
Born in Edison, New Jersey, 732.
God bless it.
Absolutely.
So you're born and raised in Edison. You got memories kindergarten, starting schools, just hanging out with mom at home? What's
what's funny, man? I tell people this all the time. and it bothers me a bit. I don't have too many memories that I remember too much as a child. I remember all the struggle,
Sure.
but I don't remember. There's some things here and there, like a Christmas when I really wanted like the Voltron, robot.
I didn't get it either.
You know what I
It's
mean?
okay. Yeah, I wanted
It's,
it, but
it's some things here and there, but it's really sketchy for me. I admire when people remember, like when I was 4 and this happened, and you know what I mean. So I don't have too many memories like that. But the memories I do have are things that I realize now were like that trauma and things that I had to get over. But there are some really unique things about my childhood that I remember that are really cool, but can't recall like certain.
expand on that a little bit. Take me past 5 years old or whatever. What are some of those things from childhood and
Yeah.
school
So
years?
I do it like my mother always made a big deal of Christmas, right? Like so
How?
Christmas, she
Tell me
would
the Christmas tradition.
the Christmas tradition was so the Macy's Day Parade. The
Okay.
minute she saw Santa Claus, she would start putting up all the Christmas stuff. Right?
Did you watch the parade on TV or was
On
it just
TV? Yeah, the Macy's
Okay.
Day Parade.
Yeah.
And the minute she sees Santa Claus, that was like the switch.
Yep.
So the first,
No
and the
CBS.
first- yeah, yep. And the first thing she would do is like put up stockings, right?
Nice.
And that was like the thing. I do remember that. Like you would always wonder what was in your stocking, right? So
Was she putting stuff in from the
she
jump?
would go all in with stockings. So my mother to this day, like we all as like grown kids, like Easter baskets and the gifts in the stockings. Oh, like that was it. You honestly, I would be more concerned about what was in the stocking than what was under the tree, right? Because we really didn't get much under the tree anyway. But she would put like some really cool stuff in the stockings, right? So that was the main thing. And then she did a really awesome job she was really meticulous about wrapping the gifts. We would be able to open one on Christmas Eve, right? That whole thing. It was all orchestrated, right? And then Christmas morning, she would incorporate my dad's culture, Guyanese culture, where you have this dish called garlic pork. So we would have that. And bread, and then she would combine that with my grandmother's light rolls that her mother would make. So it was a whole tradition. So I hold those memories really dear. Like I really remember those. And she did a really good job of that. And then of course it was church. We were absolutely 100% going to go to church.
Part of the Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, or just
Christmas. Oh yeah. Pentecostal Christians, man. Yeah, they go. They will invent a day of the week to go to church in the event Jesus is coming back that day. So yeah, it was an event. And again, I can't really put age on it, but it was just always a really cool memories that I know my mother would go out her way. And I also remember it because like leading up to that, like September, like this time, September, October, November, they would be away trying to work multiple jobs to make Christmas happen, right? So I do remember a lot of that. And it's funny, I'll pair this with something that I think you will find really cool, based on our love of music and hip hop. So, and it combines well with Christmas. So, my cousin Stacy, again, God rest his soul. He was like, I was like glued to him. It's my favorite cousin, and he made the mistake of taking me to go see Juice in theater.
How old were you?
Yeah, and at that moment, I said, I need DJ equipment. And
Right now.
I remember going home. I was 12, 13.
Sure.
And I remember going home and telling my parents, I was like, I need DJ equipment. And my mother was like, boy, if you don't get out of here. And she made it work. And I got me some ghetto BD10s to start DJing with. And I was 12. I was 12 years old. I turned 13 that year. And that's when I started DJing. But I remember that Christmas, it was like, it's only so many ways you can hide like a turntable under.
It's too big. It's too much. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I got DJ equipment that Christmas, and I was like, it was the best Christmas ever. Still to this day, the best Christmas ever. So yeah, I have little unique things like that. Being in the projects with my cousin, like roller skating around and sitting on the curb, eating too much crab, which is why I hate seafood to this day. Ate way too much crab. But some really cool memories like that, like being at a family reunion when I got chicken pox.
Chicken. Who doesn't have a good chicken pox story? Yeah, did the whole family get it at the family reunion?
We had a family reunion, and I just felt awful. And I just remember like we had a pickup truck at the time, and I just remember going to lay in the truck, and I was super sick. And then the next day, right, they just started popping up all over the place. And then the oatmeal bath, right, and that whole thing afterwards. But yeah, some really cool things. Like, again, it's hard to put age on, but you know, some middle school stories. I had a crush on the bus driver, Elaine. Really liked Elaine.
Tell us about Elaine.
She
was the bus driver.
Elaine was the bus driver, elementary school bus driver. Very pretty woman that I had a crush on. And she always, I remember how I would always try to be like first in line. And Elaine was like really, she was always nice. Hey, Tyrone, or whatever. My mother would sit there. And it's funny, Elaine and Ruth are the two names that stick out in my childhood the most. And wherever Ruth is, she's somewhere smoking a cigarette, drinking some really bland iced tea, listening to Elvis right now. So Ruth, wherever you are, I love you dearly. But Ruth was, to this day, someone that I hold very, very, very special in my heart. And I'll get to that. But it's funny, and it's like Elaine used to drive me to Ruth, and then my mother used to stand at the bus stop with me. So it was like that triumvirate of women was very special to me at the time. I get to sit there and gaze at Elaine for the little short bus ride, and then Ruth was the lunch lady at my elementary school, Martin Luther King. Shout out to Martin Luther King, where also, what's its name? Gary V went to Martin Luther King. Shout out to Gary V. Sure. Martin Luther King produces greatness. You hear me?
Hey,
and Ruth was the lunch lady. And one day I didn't have lunch. And she came, she said, sweetheart, you don't have lunch? I said, no, I didn't have lunch money. And she went to get me McDonald's.
Oh, she didn't just hook you up with some lunch. She
went to get me McDonald's. And
Say no more.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And we hit it off, and she was like a mom away from home. And again, other times I'd have money, she'd give me lunch money, she'd buy me lunch. And she lived close by. And in the summers, I would go to her house. I learned to swim in her pool. Mind you, there was no way she could have saved me if I drowned. She used to sit on the side of the pool in a chair, playing Elvis, smoking cigarettes, drinking iced tea, right? And she would make me peanut butter and jelly sandwich and this iced tea with no sugar in it and Elvis all day. And I'm in the deep end. And she's like, sweetheart, you okay? I'm like, I'm trying to make it to the edge.
Trying to make this
I'm trying to make it to the edge so I don't drown. But somehow end up learning to swim in her pool. And she was awesome. She was always there. She would do whatever. She took care of me. Really, really special. So I will forever revere her, hold her in high regard. But yeah, so it's little things like that. And to me, what I always tell people is, and I think this is, I don't think I'm special. I think everyone has it like this, but I think for me, and we always joke about it in my family, it's like, I think the fact that I had a praying mama, God always sent someone to fill the gaps where my parents couldn't, right? Like I couldn't buy my first pair of track spikes. Marty Hollerin bought them, right? So, you know, it's like there was always someone to kind of fill in the gaps, no matter where I was in my life. And she was like the mom away from home, right? And took care of it. So again, my parents could work and do the things that they were doing. But yeah, so childhood is interesting in a lot of ways. But as I got older and I really started to think about it, I started to realize, like, man, the way people recall their childhood and certain things they really couldn't do, because we didn't go on vacation, we didn't have anything like that. It was mainly about survival. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we survive, as opposed to like these really like, sweetheart moments that you tell people about.
Yeah, it's the way you play that back. I'm not going to relate it to your choosing to live without seasons in, beautiful Southern California now. No vacations turned into permanent vacation or something.
There's a straight line there, my man.
There is a straight line between those 2 points. If you don't think I see it. We're going to get into like middle and high school further here in just a second. DJ Tyrone's DJ name, what were we going by when you got your turntable?
Technique. Tekneek.
Oh, had to just warp that spelling with those BD10s.
The BD10s. I was making it happen. I had the glove, right, with the fingers cut out with the gloves, right? Yeah. I had it all. It was real.
It was real.
I cannot DJ a party without my glove.
Shout outs to DJ Technique. What else are you into besides, like, when do you start? Are you into sports in middle school and going into high school?
I love sports. Younger, you mean?
Yeah, because like, what's the gateway into playing in the street versus like hanging out with your friends? Like, what are you playing? What are you into then? Because athleticism is going to play a bigger role in this.
Yeah, no, it does. And it's funny, that didn't come until way later. So I didn't like sports. I didn't play sports. I was very much into, like, I would probably say like from like 10 to 13, I actually probably like 5 to 13. I was into like cars, right? Like toy cars. I had like all these little, you know what I mean? Like I was into that, and I was kind of by myself. I was an introvert. I showed no athletic ability at all. I was a crybaby. Like I just didn't like pain. I was like a mama's boy. I was up under my mother. I didn't really exhibit any of those things. So very much into toys and reading and just kind of, by myself. Video games. I was a gamer at the time, right? Played a lot of video games, but nothing that was remotely close to athletics. And then I started playing Pop Warner football. And I'm like, man, I really don't like people hitting me, right? But I discovered I was fast. And this was probably like 11, 12.
Do you remember either the moment you realized you were fast or the first time either an adult or somebody else was like, you're quick? Is there any memory of this?
That's such a great question, man. I don't remember. What I do remember is whenever there was like the wind sprints or like the penalty or whatever, like it never bothered me because I was like, I could just do this all day.
I got this.
Right? Yeah. So I didn't really think about it. But I tell you where's a moment where I realized I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. We were playing, there was a freshman team in high school. We had a freshman team at that time. And I was on kickoff return. I couldn't catch a beach ball. That was the other thing. I got big old hands and I couldn't catch a beach ball. It was ridiculous. But I didn't practice it either, but it was like I couldn't catch to save my life.
If I get a time machine, I'll go visit Ruth in the pool. I'll give her an extra pack of palm olives. I'll throw you a peach ball.
Exactly.
The whole history changes.
Throw some post rounds. This will pay off later.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm going back, and the referee walks over, and I will never forget this as long as I live. He goes, young man. He goes, you're so much faster than all these other kids. He's like, run this back. And I was like, all right. Kickoff comes. I fumble it. Right? I pick it up off the ground. I run to the left. Pew, touchdown. Right?
Right.
And I'm like, all right. Like, it's something in there. And yeah, that's it. But again, I joke about it. I still hold quite a few school records, but I also hold the school records of track for quitting as well. Like I quit a lot my freshman and sophomore year. I just didn't like it. So I was fast, yeah, but that was the thing where like someone older had to go, like, you definitely just faster than these kids. Like, just don't get hit. Just run away from them. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like the moment. But, and we can get to this a little later, there was a moment, the moment where I knew the track, where I fell in love with track. It's like I can recall, the smells, the feel, I remember that like it was yesterday. So, but that moment where I actually knew that I had some wheels was that gentleman, God bless his soul, wherever he is, like, just stop running, like, run away from him.
Right. You realize
Yeah.
you possess
Like, you don't
this
have
thing
to,
that's,
you don't have to get hit.
you don't have, getting hit is a choice for you.
Right. Getting hit is a choice.
There's something about that, whether you call it like promotion or whatever else, but where somebody else actually sees something in you that you're half aware of, but like validates it. Yeah. That was part of why I was curious, because it's a meandering path to track for you.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's what makes life beautiful, when these people pour into you. And it's usually people that, like, they just pop up along your journey and then kind of go, no, move 1 degree this way. And it makes all the difference in your life. And then they just disappear, right?
Yeah, it's not all Gandalfs and Yodas.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's just somebody going, no, go that way, right? But yeah, it was definitely a meandering path. And then, you know, once I actually realized, like, it was okay, that was the thing. And that's the difference, I think, and I say this all the time now, what I learned very early is your talent is so different from your gift, and people get those things confused. And I when I discovered I had a talent to run, it was a very hard thing to embrace. Your gift is even harder, which I found out later in life. It's more painful to embrace your gift. But when you have a talent, it's hard to embrace it, especially one that where it wasn't it's not something that you just, you're taller than all the other kids, or all this, like, it's visible, or folks kind of pointed out to you, or curated. For me, it wasn't curated. Like, my dad wasn't a track athlete. My parents weren't athletes like that. It was something that once it was shown to me and everyone's like, no, you got a talent. You kind of like, all right, well, now what am I supposed to do with it? Right? Like, you know, especially with running. So once I realized like that, like, I had a talent, I was like, okay, I had to learn to understand what that meant, to cultivate it, to use it, and ultimately honor where it was going to take me, but also realize at the end, right, which almost cost me my life, that it wasn't a gift. And I had to go, oh, okay, the end of the talent is here. The beginning of the gift starts here. So if you look at the whatever, right, the 16-year-old me that figured that out, and then the 32-year-old me that was kind of like, all right, I have to figure out now that my talent has ended, I got to find my gift. That was a 16-year gap of discovery, but also one that almost cost me my life, literally. So it's an interesting thing, especially when I talk to athletes now or whatever. It's like, please do not there are some gifted athletes, yes. There's a small minority of those. 99.9% of us are just really talented. It's a big difference, right? Usain Bolt, gifted, right? Michael Jordan, gifted. So, you know, those it's a big distinction there where you go, okay, this is what I was born for. I wasn't born to run. God just gave me a gift, right, to do other things, but he also gave me a talent to run, right? And it was almost as if it was a gift from him for sure, but I had a talent to run. It wasn't my gift. But the talent helped me discover my gift, right? So those things kind of go together.
Let's talk about the high school stuff let's talk about quitting the track team 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, what was I'm asking you now as a 40-something to reflect on what a, 16-year-old's going through. give some advice to 16-year-old you, or like walk me through what was actually going on with you. What was the quitting about? Why was it?
Pain.
Explain.
And it was all about pain, physically and mentally. I was running away from the thing that would ultimately give me all the success in life I ever wanted. And it wasn't track, it was embracing pain. And then I realized at some point that what makes me elite is that I can take a lot of pain. But I was running away from that. So what I was running away from was ultimately the thing that ended up giving me everything in my life that I ever wanted. And it was, I hated the way that I felt, right? Which we affectionately call in the track and field world is booty lock, right? Your butt locks up and you can't walk. I hated that feeling, right? And I had come to embrace that later on. And then the mental part of what do you do when there's 9 lanes or 8 lanes and everyone is talented? And the only thing that separates you from them is this. How mentally strong can you be? But you have to mentally go through the pain of becoming the type of runner that could excel in those situations. And I had to go through that process, and I didn't want to, right? I had never been in that situation before. And it's a really hard thing to learn that through sports because you're going to fail a lot on your way to it. So my whole thing was just like, all right, well, I'll quit, right? I'm not doing it, right? And I quit, and story that everyone still jokes and laughs about and we have fun about. My mother drove me to the bus. She made me get in the car and quit. She drove me all the way from where we live to the bus. She spoke to Marty. They waited for me. She's like, nope, you going. And she drove me. I got on the bus. I got an earful from him. And it was kind of that moment, right? There was a lot of moments with them two together. And he was like, you can't quit. You made a commitment to the people on this team, right? You're on a relay. You need to be here for these folks. And that was that. And it's funny, he jokes to this day, he goes, you know that when I got the buy-in from your mother that I can literally lean into you, you were cooked. Like,
correct.
He gave me the green light.
Like,
I could literally have my way with you at that point. There was nothing I couldn't say or do. So I think that's what it was. I was running away from the pain. And ultimately, I think, as you know, and it's cliche and we say it, but it's not the failure that bothers people as much as if I'm successful, then what? What everything that comes along with it. Like if I'm really good at this, then what? And I think that's what it was. I was running away from a lot of things. And then ultimately it clicked. And when it did, it was kind of like, now they're having to pull me back, right? Like it was no longer Sikkim. It was kind of like, whoa, right? Like, okay, he's take me to school early, drop me off. I want to practice, right? I want to stay late. I want to train on weekends. And he used to be like, all right, no, you need to go home, right? There's no more reps for you to do today. So it had kind of clicked in that moment. And then when it did, I was kind of like, all right, now this is going to be something that I'm going to give my all.
What do you think the click was to that becoming part of your identity? When did that take hold? How did it take hold? How did you become mom's driving you back to the bus and you're getting hollered at by Hollerin to I'm showing up before school, I'm staying out. Somebody has to send me home now.
There's a video my sophomore year of, and it's funny. It's a visual representation of my future. If you're looking it through the wrong lens, you say a future in track, but it was the future of where I sit today. But there's a video that was recorded by one of the guys on the team. His dad, he used to record all the races. It's my sophomore year. It's the state championship meet. And we're about to go onto the track for the 4x4. And I'm a sophomore. There was a junior, two seniors. I'm the one in the huddle losing my mind, right? I'm giving the pregame speech. And up until that point, right, like that spring, it had started to come a little bit, whereas like, all right, there's something here. So when you visually watch that video, you actually hear them. They're like, oh, Tyrone is giving like the pre-race speech, right? That was the first manifestation of my gift, which is to be an orator, is to speak, it's to present, it's to motivate, it's to inspire, it's to create a vision, right? But at that moment, it was the switch went off where it was kind of like, all right, this is a moment where something could happen. And we ended up breaking the school record. I think we got third or something like that. We broke the school record, and I ran an absurd split. And when I got that split back, I was kind of like, all right, it's on now. Like, it's on.
I did that?
Yeah.
That was me?
Yeah.
My split?
And that summer, I said, okay. Okay. And I was very skinny, right? What Caribbeans call MAGA. I was MAGA at the time, right? Not MAGA, MAGA. But
I'll get you a better hat for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I worked out all that summer or whatever. And then by this time I quit football. So when I came back and I'm walking the hallways as a junior, they're like, oh, he's definitely playing football this year. I was like, nope. Like, I'm all in on track. So I'd filled out physically, but I'd filled out emotionally and mentally as well. Like, I was like, all right, I'm all in on this. And the crazy thing is, I spent all summer training, did all these things, and my indoor season of my junior year was so disappointing. So I was kind of like, oh, pop the bubble, right? And it was very humbling because it was still a level to be unlocked. So that was kind of how that whole thing went. So it was like I had realized things that clicked. I was starting to really say, okay, like I could be good at this. I want to be good at this. And then I worked all summer, and then I come back from my indoor season, and it was kind of like it wasn't what was supposed to be. And that spring, it all changed.
It all changed.
It all changed.
Did anything? Okay, the summer when you're prepping before the dud of an indoor season. What's mom and dad saying about this? Is anybody taking a notice? Was there any change in awareness around you that you were this invested all of a sudden?
Yeah, like it turned because my mother was like, is he really like running up and down the stairs with like holding gallons of water?
Right.
Really, you know what I mean? So like, what are you doing? So yeah, I think they had started to realize that I wanted to be good at it. But my parents weren't former athletes. They're very meek people. They never really applied pressure to me to do this or whatever. It was kind of like, if that's what you want to do, great, right? But my parents were kind of oblivious to it all in a way where it was kind of like, all right, like we see what happens.
Friends?
Right?
And is anybody aware of you undergoing this transformation?
No.
So this feels like in total isolation.
Total
You're
isolation.
On the stairs with the water jugs, all in here,
Yep.
going, I see something.
I see something. Yeah. And I saw it. It was clear. And it's funny, at that moment, I had also, again, I started writing things down, and I started to like, all right, these are the goals that I have or whatever. And it's funny, again, we talk about these things. Everyone talk, write your goals and make them plain and visible. I was just doing that just because I was kind of like, all right, I need to see what I want, right? Like I'm writing these things down. So, but yeah, if you went in my room, it was all over the place. I didn't have like Red Man posters. I had like track goals and all that other stuff, right? Like DJ equipment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Trashed our vision boards.
now, what my parents will tell you is they knew that DJing was the thing, because I was a really, really good DJ. I was making a living DJing at 15 years old, right? Like I worked in a record store. I was DJing parties. Like I was super, super busy as a DJ. So they absolutely would have told you, right? When they heard that, when they were downstairs, he's like, he's making another mixtape, right? Like, you know what I mean? So I tormented them with the DJ stuff. So now that's more of my focus than track was, right? So it was this really interesting situation where my senior year, where again, I'm being recruited by every school in the country and, you know, multiple times state champion at that point, national champion, the whole deal. I had to make a decision, right? And at that time, 97, 98, music started to change. It was coming out faster. It was getting so I had to make a decision, and I let DJing go. And I solely focused on track. But yeah, from 12 all the way up until 17, like DJing was my career. I mean, I was a teenager DJing clubs in New York. It was silly, right? So, but I had put so much into that. I was constantly practicing. I had, folks, the young folks, there used to be these things back in the day called flea markets. So I had my mixtape in the flea market. I used to make tapes. I used to sell them. I used to work in a record store. I begged them. I was 14. They were like, you can't work here. You're too young. But I begged them. I'm like, I'll do whatever, right? And I remember my mother, taking me to go buy records all the time. And I finally got them to give me a job in a record store. And I was like, I don't want to be paid with money. It's like, I just need records.
Pay me in records.
Yeah, pay me in records.
It's an expensive habit.
Oh,
it's a very expensive habit.
Very expensive habit. So yeah, that was kind of the thing then. So track was kind of like, he's just doing this in school,
Because you're having this success and there's a tangible economic benefit.
Yep.
To DJing those parties, selling those mixtapes.
Yeah, at that point, if you would have asked my parents, like, what is the thing, I think everybody would have told you that.
It's like DJ technique, obviously.
Yeah, DJ technique, baby.
Can you, this is only because this resonates really hard with me personally too, that point of the decision where track was the focus and you were going to let music not fall away, but take that back row seat or however you saw it in your mind. Was that a hard decision or was it just an obvious, like, now my focus is here, it's no problem to sort of put this to bed?
Looking back at it as being 17 at the time, it wasn't hard at the time because I felt like I'd be able to get back to it, right?
Yeah,
but
it's always right there.
It's always right there.
Right there.
Where this was kind of something where it was like, all right, college would be free. Like, it's completely free, right? And
there's no
DJ
scholarships.
Yeah, by that time I knew the Olympics were a thing. So it was kind of like, all right, this is it. This is the decision. But I always felt like music was always going to be there. Now, again, as much as it changed, right, it's been crazy. And it's always been right there, yeah. And I never got back to it, but I knew if I ever wanted to, I could. Where it was like, all right, I only have a certain amount of years to capitalize on my talent, my skills. So no, like I said, no, it wasn't that. It was more of like, it was just so obvious that running was the thing. You just kind of follow the path that's being laid before you.
Talk to me about this senior year experience. Talk to me how that and like applying to colleges, the scholarships, like talk to me how senior year actually goes. What's it feel like looking back on it?
I remember my high school graduation and we're getting ready to, the gowns and all that stuff in the school. And my high school coach coming to me before we were going out, he said, you are not going to be able to appreciate what you accomplished this year for years. Like you won't even, he's like, go enjoy it, but you're going to look back on this and go, what just happened, right? And again, man, was he right. So my junior year, I win my first state title. I break school records. Now I'm on the mat. And that summer, again, trained really, really hard because now I'm coming back my senior year as a defending champ. right? Again, you'll appreciate what I'm about to go as well. It's like how hip hop and music is soundtrack to your life. So I come back, and again, now it's like all the press, can he repeat this, that, and the third? Now, I was the outdoor champion. I wasn't the indoor champion in the 400. And from the time we touched the track, me and my teammates touched the track in winter of 96, right? In that 96, and it was magical. Everything about, we were coming for everything, right? And my individual success was paired with an incredible amount of success that we had as a team. And I remember what was special about it is, so there was a gentleman who, from a team from Camden, South New Jersey, we had a rivalry with. So he was a really good 60 runner. And he was basically saying that he was going to do the 60 and the 400 at what we call Meet the Champions, the state championship meet. And I was offended. I'm like, I'm me. I'm the 400 state champ. I don't ever won indoors. So the whole way, I was in Edison, so the meet was at Princeton, on Princeton's campus, Jadwin Gym. The whole way down, I'm listening to T.O.N.Y. because of the first couple lines of the song. Trying to on me and make history, right? I'm listening to
Right.
T.O.N.Y.
On loop.
Day, right? Yep, on loop. If I ever meet Nori, I'm gonna tell him that. But I'm listening to this over and over and over again. And I remember being so motivated. And we won. I won the 400. We won the relay. We won everything that year, right? We just had a tremendous amount of success. But my senior year was one of those years where it was like levitating, right? Like it was just, it was title after title, and then press clipping after press clipping, and, you're best dressed in high school, and I'm still DJing a little bit, so I was able to cut the little Lords of the Underground thing where collect props from here to Metuchen. I was cutting it up with the basketball team, right? Like it was a whole thing. I could do no wrong, right? Like it was incredible. And then, going into my senior year, of course, you're able to take your visits and you're getting recruited. So now I'm getting recruited, and I'm taking all these recruiting trips, and they're flying me in, and it's I'm like, this is amazing, right? Coaches are coming to the house, they're calling. But I was able to stay focused and perform, right? And I had one of the, best years in New Jersey history, which, again, looking back on it at the time, was crazy. We broke the state record for the relay indoors. I won 3 titles in a row. We won a national championship that spring. We broke all of the county record. Like, we did stuff that was still hasn't been touched. So it's crazy how it all played out. We won Milrose games in Madison Square Garden, running in front of 50,000 people at Penn Relays. This little, and again, my school, Metuchen, was tiny, right? Like, my graduating class was maybe 90 people, right? So it was a small school, 400 plus at that time. So what we were doing as a small school was unprecedented. Like, it was, adjusted for size, it should have been impossible, right? Like,
Right.
So, yeah. Oh, you want to say something?
No, just per capita, a class that small to run numbers like that.
It was insane that
in that area too.
In that area in that area at that time, with a state that's small, densely populated, but track is big in New Jersey, right?
Track is a very big deal.
Yeah, and we were cleaning house. Like, it was, we were untouchable. And it was, and again, Coach loves the Beatles. So he would always be like, you guys aren't the Beatles. Like, you're nothing close to the Beatles. Stop acting like the Beatles.
So Ruth gave you Elvis.
Yeah.
Coach gave you the Beatles.
He gave me the Beatles. He loves the Beatles. My God. And he's a big Yankees fan. There will never be a Yankee better than Mickey Mantle, right? Mickey Mantle was just it, right? So, it was Mickey Mantle. Yeah, such and such. Jeter's good, but he's no Mickey Mantle. Okay, right?
I know the personality.
Yep, exactly.
Now that you've added that detail.
That's just what it is. So, but it was great because, again, he kept us humble. He kept us focused. And then again, it ends my last race, it ends with, again, that small school beating every other team in the country. We win a national championship. Like, what are the chances of that? So it was awesome, man. And then, the recruitment experience was interesting, and really exciting. I ended up going to Georgia Tech, somewhere I didn't take a visit. It's just the Coach Hinsdale was like, he just reminded me a lot of Coach Hollerin and my dad and my mom. So, but yeah, man, the senior year of high school was awesome. It's awesome. Like I just, everything about it was, it was just really, really cool. And it was cool as well, because it was like, when you mentioned applying, like, I didn't really apply to colleges like that. Like, it was when you get
They came knocking.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
They do
We'll
everything.
do this paperwork for you, sir.
Yeah, it's like they do everything. It was kind of like, I remember my mother coming. I was sitting in class, and my mother comes with the full scholarship paperwork that I had to sign, and she's crying. It was just like, oh my God, it's really happening. But
I think we just discovered like the origination of turnkey.
yes, yeah, right. So it was like, it was just this really cool moment, man, that, I will always look back on fondly and grateful for Coach and everyone at the school and that opportunity. And my aunt, who I mentioned before, who passed, if it's not for her, it would have never happened, because I used her address, right? We used her address. So like, that's her legacy. So I could go there. So yeah, man, senior year was, it was one of those things. It was kind of like, if I could live a year like this for the rest of my life, it'd be awesome.
It'd be this.
Yeah, it would definitely be that.
The San Diego of life. If you
Yeah, absolutely.
I said it in the intro. Like, I'm going to say a part 2 at some point in the future where I just ask you about college in this piece, because I want to fast forward through this. And then I've got so many notes that I'm going to take you through here too. But I want to actually talk about the end of the running thing and this talent versus gift versus talent realization point.
Yeah.
Because I think all these lessons kind of build up to this point of wanting to do the Olympics. Of like, the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs out at some point.
It does.
So take me to the end of the track journey, of the competitive track journey. Lead me forward in time here and just fill in some details around this.
Man, so 2012 was easily the worst year of my life. And 2011 sucked. So 2012 was really bad. But I was 32 years old, and it was my last shot. Now, 2004, I qualified. I'm actually on my way to the trials. I get a call that they took 27 guys, right? Me and the 28th guy at the same time. They leave us both out. 2008, I'm about a half a second or so off the qualifier. And 2012 was like the last hurrah, right? And at 32, you're a little bit past your prime, but I was supremely conditioned. I was in the best shape of my life. And I was like, I'm going to give it, I wasn't sure, but I was like, I'm going to give it one more shot. Like, I think I could do it. And everything that could have went wrong, right? I was dating a woman a young lady at the time who had just graduated Columbia. She was at the same time preparing for Miss America as I was training for the Olympics. Thought I was going to marry her. That dissolves. One of my high school friends, again, who I ran track with, was very close with, he commits suicide. My grandmother dies days before I'm supposed to start my season and run my first race. I lose my job at Morgan Stanley. I tear my groin a couple weeks before the Olympic trials. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. I can keep going. It gets worse and worse and worse, right? So there's a lot there, yeah. This would take up another hour to explain that. But basically, the end, and I would never forget it. Like it was a warm morning, a couple days prior, because Hollerin was back coaching me at this point. and I was preparing for a tune-up race before the trials, right, to improve my time and everything else. And he goes, be careful, right? Get a good warm up. And it was warm, it was humid, it was June. And it's in the morning and I'm doing the first rep and I could feel it. And I was like, man, it's off. And my dumb behind, don't stop, right? I keep going, makes it worse. So I had a full tear when it was all said and done. Oof. And it was all incredibly painful. So go through that whole thing, and I still was obstinate at the fact that it was like, it was what it was. And I remember going back to the track, and I might have been the day of the meet or the day before, and I was trying to warm up and couldn't do it. And I just remember screaming. I was the only one out on the track, and I just cried, because I knew that was it. And fell into a severe depression after that. And then it culminated one morning with, it's like, there's no reason for me to live anymore. Everything that I thought was going to happen didn't happen. At this point, I'm sleeping on the floor of my parents' 1-bedroom apartment in the projects. Like I was the low of lows. And I just woke up one morning and it was like, yeah, this is it. I bought the ticket. I'm done. And it was a journey that, that from 2004 to 2012, like that accumulated. It was just the disappointment just became too much to bear. And the funny thing is like you mentioned the talent and gift, but also what happens at that moment where you feel like you want to end your life is you're focused, you're replaying everything from the past and bringing the past to be in that moment and not what could happen in the future, right? And that's exactly where I was. And I think about everything that have happened since that moment. I would have not experienced my nephews, right? I wouldn't experienced my gift because I thought I was born to run. I wasn't. It was a conduit to my gift. And when I stepped off the curb, right, to walk in front of this truck, this 18-wheeler that I was like, and God kind of grabbed me by the back of the shirt, like, nope, dummy, watch this. Watch what I got for you. Okay, watch this. And I remember I got back on I stepped off the curb and I couldn't do it. And the truck goes by, poof. And it was almost at that moment, the wind and everything, like, and I haven't cried that hard since. And I ran back to the house and I didn't say anything to anybody. I kind of cleaned up myself. And at that moment, it was kind of like, all right, now what? And then 2013 was one of the best years of my life. And it just kind of set me off on this journey. In 2013, I wrote thank you notes to every single person I could possibly think of. I went on an apology tour to every person that I treated badly, right? And I realized I had to go on this journey of discovery. And I want to say it was probably 2 years later or so, I met my gift. I realized why I was born. And it completely changed the trajectory of my life. And no coincidence that 2013 happens, 2014, I start hearing about some stupid Satoshi guy, Bitcoin stuff, right? And I kind of lean into that. And I'm at Merrill Lynch, right? I get fired from Morgan Stanley. I get hired at Merrill Lynch, and then I leave Merrill Lynch. And then, it just kind of, I meet Jason Wank. It just kind of, but these things just started to follow on. And then I realized like, oh, I had a talent to run. I wasn't born to run.
After the truck, the whoosh, the experience, do you remember what, it doesn't have to be the first thing. You were locked out of the future at that point.
Yep.
You were like locked in the past, and all of a sudden you're not. Do you remember the first or one of the first or some of the first, like awarenesses of positivity or positive future that all of a sudden you were like, whether it's as small as this cup of coffee tastes different or as small as like what was give me something that follows.
It's funny that you mentioned a cup of coffee, because at that time, right, and I have it in the room there. So for 20 plus years straight, I wrote down every single thing that I did when it came to my training and my vision and my dream, everything, every morsel of food, every workout, everything. And I remember pouring a glass of orange juice. And I hadn't had orange juice, I don't know how long. It was kind of like, on this healthy diet and all this other stuff. And I remember pouring it and just staring at it. And I drank a little bit and I'm like, man, this tastes so good. Right? But it brought back all of these really good feelings, like of my childhood, where you got orange juice and the crispy rib pancakes and bacon and all that other stuff. And it was just kind of like, I've denied myself humanity, right? I was trying to be superhuman and deny myself humanity of the small things. And shortly thereafter, my grandmother had passed, and before she had passed, but we were cleaning up her things, whatever. And for a couple of days, I slept in her apartment where she was by myself. And I was in there, and then I'm like, how in the world does she raise 12 children in this little ass apartment, right? But it was, I just started to get back to me. And I started to really become interested in everything that made me me, when now track is removed, when I thought that was my identity. But now these little things just really started to matter, like family, like getting to know what made me me, right? Like, so those things really started to happen for me. And then, like I said, I think in 2000, shortly after that, in 2013, when it was the first time I had done things. I went to a Rangers game. I grew up a big Rangers fan. I went to a hockey game. I went to see plays, right? Alvin Ailey. I did a whole bunch of cool things that I'd never done because I was just so focused on that. So I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be a normal person. You know what I mean?
This is how the people live.
Yeah, it's how people live. I don't have to go work out twice a day, right? So that was really it. And I think the biggest moment, as far as when it was kind of like, all right, I could take the next step. I want to say it was that October of 2012 or so, somewhere in there. My trainer, really good friend of mine, his name is Matt Mayer, and he, big hip hop head, by the way. We've done a lot of really cool concerts together. We're big Slaughterhouse junkies.
Awesome.
But he said, hey man, get back in the gym. He said, come back and just train. Don't attach no goals to it. Just come work out. And I'm like, nah, man. He's like, just come train. It's okay. Because I was embarrassed, right? Because all these people think you're going to the Olympics and everything is, and I felt so embarrassed. And I think I was carrying so much embarrassment that it didn't happen, because I'm writing it in the yearbook. I'm going to be an Olympian, and everyone knows, and you're posting on social media. I'm training and it doesn't happen. Now what? So he said, come get back in the gym. And I went, and it was okay, right? And everyone felt awful for me, but I started to pick up a routine again. And then I slowly had to deal with the fact of, so over the next couple of years, I say probably right around 2017 or so is when I realized, I was like, all right, this part of me has to die in order for me to be who I need to be and what I was born to do. And again, that that 4 to 5 year time frame there was a really big part of how I sit here today.
Talk for a minute about today. Talk about what you're doing, and I'm going to take you through some notes. Like, we're going to get off this meeting in a few minutes.
No, all good, man.
What do you got it? What are you doing next? Talk to me about Turnkey. Talk to me about 401. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, I will. I think where I sit here today, though, and why I was really excited for this conversation is that I've gone through this transformation in the last 5 years, and especially the last 3, where my worldview has changed. I have changed. My relationship with God has changed, and my relationship with my family has changed. It's been really interesting. Again, I moved across the country. I've been in California 5 years now. So a lot has changed. So it's less
a pandemic
about
move for you. Did you end up in California at the beginning of the pandemic, during the pandemic, before?
Right in the middle of it, November 20, peak COVID.
Did you? Yeah. Okay.
Peak. So
Was that part of the decision, or what? Yeah.
I was planning to leave before it, and because so one of my high school teammates lives out this way. He has his own RA out here. His son is my godson, and I had come out to visit. My first time was at 16. I was out here in 18, and then I visited in 18, and then again was doing some filming for Altruist and the Human Advisor podcast 2019, where I actually found a place that I live right now. And I was going, I got to find a way to get here. And I just wanted to move. And then COVID hit. And then August of 20, I take the CEO of On Rant role, and they were, our headquarters was based here. So I was like, I didn't want to be the remote CEO, but I ended up being that anyway because everyone kept getting COVID, couldn't be in office. So yeah, it was in the plans, but literally it was October 30th or 31st. I had a trip planned in LA anyway at the Altruist headquarters to interview Ron Carson at the time, Omani now. And
the Yasin Bey of the
yeah, no doubt.
Really.
Of world management, really is. Yeah. So I knew that was like mid-November, but I was like, you know what? I saw this place. I'm like, let me just go online and see, put in my information.
And it hurt.
They call me back 30 minutes. Like, welcome. You've been approved. And I'm like, approved for what? I was like, I was just trying to, you know what I mean? And the woman's like, yeah, could you move? You can move in November 1st or whatever. I'm like, sweetheart, look at the number you dialed. I'm in New Jersey. So I was kind of like, and then at that time, there was no one doing anything. So the price was like literally 100% off. So she was like, yeah, it was really empty or whatever. And I'm like, can you give me 2 weeks? She's like, yeah, that's fine. Packed a bag. And a book bag and a carry-on, and I left. Literally, got here, took a Uber up to LA, did the interview with Jason and Omani, ordered my stuff on the way back, got my bed and everything here. By the time I got back down to San Diego, I had my bed, and the rest is history, man. Like, left most of my winter stuff there because I didn't need it. So left a lot of clothes and everything else I got while I was here. But yeah, man. That was, that's how I ended up here. So, but to your question of like where I sit here now, it's less, had the last 3 years not happened, I would have gone into, 4-1 and turn it. That's a big part of my story. But it's less about how I sit here now and who I've become as a result of those trying to birth those two things and getting them to exist. And having to do these things in complete isolation away from everything that's familiar. The hug of my mother, right? The smell of her food, my friends, the comfort of my high school track, which I would still go to, familiar environments, but doing it in pure isolation, 3,000 miles away from everything that's familiar, right? And having to go through things alone and things that I had never gone through before, like litigation. Right? Somebody sued.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Right? Like building a company from scratch and then leaving at the height of its powers and then having financial media which lifted you up, say awful, incorrect, incomplete things about you and having to remain silent. starting all over again, right? In what you really believed in conviction of yourself, learning more things about yourself and how you look at the world and the things that are important to you as opposed to the things that you were carrying that were important to a mother or a father or a sister or whatever those things. So yeah, man, I sit here today free. I'm happier than I've ever been. And I know myself so well. And that's what I'm most happy about. I know me. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm aware of where I'm weak. I'm aware of where I'm strong. I'm aware of where I fall short. I'm aware of my history. I'm aware of the trauma that I've caused in my own life. I'm able to make that distinction from the trauma that I was exposed to, right? I'm able to speak to those things with clarity and conviction and purpose. And my companies are a reflection of my gift. And my gift to unite, my gift to create vision, my gift to inspire change, and my gift to want to get people to realize you want to put more into the world than you take from it. And nothing I do is in the reflection of anything that has existed before, and that makes me really exciting, right? To work with, but excited to get up every day and realize that and again, I pride myself on being fit and working out and doing all those things, but the best way to display your strength is to serve. And I'm a servant at the end of the day. And I realize that being a vessel for these things that I've gone through, it's for me to serve people in unique ways. And that comes along with a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of being used, a lot of walking around like an empty cup, having to restore yourself while you're pouring into others, right? So I'm very aware of that, and I don't run from it or resent it. I realize that that's the purpose that God has given me. And I'm trying to honor that as best I can, right? And the last thing I'll say on that is this. What I've learned is the majority of people wake up every day and completely go against the will of their life. Completely, willingly go against the will for their life. It's crazy. But when you realize what you're here to do and why, but embracing that it's going to suck, it's not going to be easy, it puts you in this place of freedom, right? And not being successful at the wrong thing or something that you dislike. I spend all my time, I'm a successful advisor, but I don't really, it's not my calling. It's not what I'm called to do. First thing I want to do when I'm done with clients is I want to go fish, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? I love what I do. I love working with clients. I love being an advisor. I love being an entrepreneur, but I realize like my clients get the best of me because I know exactly who I am, right? Every day I know exactly who I am. And they benefit from that. And my family benefits from it. And podcast interviews benefit from it, right? But more importantly, I do, because I don't waste my 86,400 seconds I got every day. I maximize every single one because I know when my feet hit the floor, I'm operating in my purpose.
I love that answer because it respects all the places that you've been that brought you up to this point too.
Yeah.
Because learning how to rumble with that pain and going, no, this is just an everyday part of it.
Yep.
It might not have a goal attached to it like it does at different points in life, like when you're training for something or you're building a business. Those goals are transient.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are. They're transient. And if someone would have just pointed out, right, and they couldn't, but you look back at, all right, well, being kicked out of Georgia Tech and then now being in tech is hilarious, right? Like
exactly
the whole Olympic journey and then that being, well, the end goal wasn't an Olympic gold medal. It was to be the springboard for what you're doing now as an entrepreneur. I don't know nothing about startups and any of this stuff, but that's what got me there, right? So it's like, okay, the Olympics lead you to startups, right? That makes perfect sense to a 17-year-old, sure, right? Like, first in the family to finish high school, but you're going to start companies. Got it. Right. So,
Right.
Yeah, man.
It was all right there. It was so obvious.
It's so obvious.
It was so
Ruth
obvious.
had the answers all the time.
Ruth had the answers all along. I took some notes.
Yeah.
You're on the hook. I'm calling you back for the part 2 when we're doing the basically
Let's do
college
it,
years in.
Yeah.
Because I want to unpack that with you at some point too. All right. I don't even know where I want to start with all this. I mean, the 50 plus grandkids thing, I'm just going to have to stare over that note for a second.
Wild.
Yes. The human race moves its way forward with you and your family.
Through my family, yes, for sure.
All right. Talk to me for a second about Marty Hollerin being in his mid to late 30s as your coach. You're a couple years past this now. Does that freak you out in a weird way? Do you look at that and go, did you have the capacity in your mid 30s to be the type of person that Marty was for you?
No.
Does that freak you out at all? Or is it just blow your mind at least?
It does, man. It blows my mind that he was so together, right? With that. And again, it's his gift. He was born to coach. And now being older, he could tell us some of the things that he was doing while we were sleeping, right? Going to Atlantic City and enjoying himself like any 30-year-old would. But no, I couldn't have. That responsibility, because I hold coaches in high regard. And to be a coach of impressionable young lives and steering their careers, and the way that he did it so seamlessly, right, with the plum, right, is unreal. And it was a gift, the way he just orchestrated that. The responsibility, well, again, while also starting his own family, and some of the things that he went through, it was unbelievable, navigating a divorce. But I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine it. And it's just the demand, right? The demand was unreal.
The weight of the responsibility. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
That's just profound. All right, your parents and just the story about them needing one another and the pact that they make. And I'm looking at the notes about your parents and the notes about Marty again there's this whole seeing patterns thing and then breaking patterns thing that keeps coming up. Your parents were aware of the patterns that their lives were on and made this pact with each other to break the current pattern to see where it was going in the future. Marty looked at you and your trajectory and said, here's all the steps on this. I need you to focus here, and we're going to break this out to the next level. What do you think about seeing patterns versus breaking patterns now in that context?
Great question. Pattern recognition is, and again, we talk in our industry, right? You think about that. Pattern recognition is, again, I think it's a gift to be able to recognize the rhythm, right, or the synchronicity of life and how things happen, and then being able to look back at that pattern and being able to capitalize on that and what is going to happen next. But what's interesting about what you said is breaking that pattern, right? Because they're not always positive. And I think what I realized is those folks recognizing, being a part of a pattern in my life allowed me to go against the grain and break the pattern, right? Break the cycle, right? Be different, to go and honor, my skills and my talents and what I feel like I should be doing. So yeah, man, it's that's such a great question, but that pattern recognition is huge to see it in your own life, but to see how other people fall into that. But the ability to break them, I think, is critical to getting to where you need to go in life, for sure.
Massive courageousness on their part, and then also the responsibility of instilling courageousness in others to not get in the way. Which, speaking of not getting in the way, shout out, who was the uncle who took you to see Juice in the theater?
Stacy, a cousin.
Cousin Stacy.
Because there's 50 of us that are grandchildren, he was probably old enough to be an uncle, but he was a cousin.
Somewhere in here, I'm not going to torture the pattern matching of this, but it's really funny that going to see Juice is the inception of your DJ career. And then when the orange juice comes into your life later on, we're going to get the Jamba Juice sponsorship first.
Absolutely.
And then we'll get that story told in proper.
That is hilarious.
All right. Ruth, we got to talk to her about a second. And what you described as the fill in the gaps people. From your own life, from anywhere else, do you have any moments where you did the equivalent of somebody to have lunch and you gave them McDonald's? Because
man,
that is a chef's kiss in all the chef ways of just a life moment for somebody to do something like that.
Prior to my career on Wall Street, I was a juvenile probation officer. So I have plenty of examples of some of the young men whose lives I poured into, but one specifically, his name is Lacey. And for whatever, Lacey was an incredibly dangerous individual, still is. He's done very well for himself, but he's gang affiliated, let's put it that way. And at that time, he was a wild cowboy. He was, he was, I don't know, Lacey was 16, really high ranking Crip at the time. And I think I'm Will Smith in Bad Boys with the vest on and the whole thing running around Elizabeth, New Jersey. But
Will Smith wasn't that far from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
But for whatever reason, it was dropped in my spirit to be a Ruth for this young man. Even after I tried with him. I spent a lot of time with him trying to steer him to sports or whatever else. He eventually did get locked up right as I had left probation and started my first job in investor relations. But I remember going to visit him while he was locked up and bring him food and bring him some things that he wanted. But I have plenty of examples like that with young men like him. But that one stands out because what being a probation officer showed me was, again, back to being a servant, right? Is these young kids needed direction, but they also needed an example of consistency. And I would always show up from him, right? Show up in court, show up on weekends. I used to go pick them up. I used to take them out of town and show them things or whatever. But it was the consistency that I was there. Even when it was uncomfortable for me and very dangerous, it could have cost me my life. I was consistent because I felt like it was worth it. And I felt like he was worth it, right? And because of that, now, again, he's gotten into fitness. He started his own business. He's grown his family. He should be dead. And he's not. And again, I know that's a higher power that has control over that, but I do feel like I played a little role into, a small part into helping him get to where he is.
And that's part of that in the gaps pattern recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be God in the scenario and steer the whole thing for the better. All you can do is show up and fill that gap.
Yep. That's all you can do.
All you can do.
Yeah, that's all you could do. And I'm grateful for God giving me that opportunity, right? And I'm grateful to be that for him. And hopefully the best thing is he's doing that for somebody else, right? Because it was done for him.
Because that's McDonald's on the rough day. I gotta say, if there's TONY, you got to do a TONJ at some point. You might as well. You owe it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's an offline conversation probably for this part, but the whole story of basically Nori getting his career because Capone goes to jail. Do you know that story?
Yep.
Like these little moments of you can be on the top and then everything gets screwed up, and what opportunity are you going to find when everything gets screwed up? And I think you and Nori can have that conversation someday.
It's going to happen.
I'd be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
It's going to happen for sure.
All right, I got one more thing off of this that I just thought was great. I think of them almost as Mary Oliver moments. You know Mary Oliver? You a fan of her at all? The poet?
I'm
not
familiar.
All right. So that glass of orange juice story is just truly a stunner of a story, and the flavor of that orange juice. It's got this beautiful poem about basically going out and observing nature, and she watches this bird die. Mm-hmm. And it's just this thing where she's like, it didn't break your heart to crush you. I broke your heart to break you open.
Yeah.
And once you're open to it, you start to see everything in this entirely new way. do you feel like, does that just keep on flowing outward and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you think about this life of service by the way you look at it? Has it reached any natural limit, or does it feel like it just keeps growing?
It keeps growing. And I think you get broken and you continue to be broken to be able to allow more light in and more capacity.
It's
Right?
that pain thing, right? Like,
Yeah. It's the capacity. And I think there are unique people that are giving that experience. And I feel like I'm one of them, but yeah, you continue to be broken to let more in, to be able to expose more, right? And put more out. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That comes with it comes with a lot. It's a high price to pay. But it puts you in some really interesting and really cool situations.
gives you a lot more gaps to fill in, if nothing else.
Absolutely. A lot more patterns to recognize and then break.
A lot more patterns. All right. DJ technique, Tyrone. People want to bug you on the internet. Where should they look you up these days?
At TR401 on X, formerly known as Twitter and a better place back then. You can put in my name, Tyrone V. Ross Jr. on LinkedIn. I spend a lot more time on LinkedIn now than I do on X when I'm not posting cupcake pictures and all that other stuff. So
The important stuff.
the crypto rants here and there, the important stuff. Yeah. So yeah, those are the two places. And obviously, like I said, you can, folks can email me, reach out, however you DM, whatever's the best, but I'm easy to find.
Thank the guys. You're easy to find. Tyrone, this was an absolute pleasure. You, sir, are truly an intentional investor. Thanks for sharing all these stories today.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It was an awesome to get the invite. I think the world of you. I'm a big fan, so it was awesome to be in your presence, and I take it very seriously, and I'm grateful for it.
Right back at you, brother. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you're watching The Intentional Investor so more people can find our show. You can follow Matt directly at cultishcreative.com or at cultishcreative on Twitter. For more great content at the intersection of investing and life, check out epsilontheory.com or at epsilontheory on Twitter.